Samarthya, on behalf of Samarthya Foundation and SNCC Rehab Foundation. My name is Shivani Pandit, and we are here we are presenting our Samruddhi series, a financial literacy series with our expert, Mr. Rahul Kelapure, who I think many of you have been attending his sessions since January, so I hope you know him. Today we have this session targeted on creating a will and legal guardianship. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome all of you here. Vilma, if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. We will just take a few minutes to introduce Samarthya Foundation and SNCC Rehab Foundation, and then we will jump right into the session. You can keep clicking on this one, Vima, so the slide has all the information. So as some of you may know, my name is Shivani Pandit. I'm a special educator. I have been working with children with autism and intellectual disabilities for the past 25 years in the United States. And I have a foundation called Samarthya Foundation, which is based out of the US, but we do a lot of projects and initiatives for children and families in India. Our main focus is really on projects related to creating public awareness, working with teachers, delivering professional development, and of course providing parent training and support. And for a lot of these initiatives, I am very excited to be partnering with my dear friend Harshali Kharche and SNCC Rehab Foundation, through which we are trying to deliver as many high quality programs as possible for all of you as family members and parents, or maybe even adult siblings, who have siblings with a disability diagnosis. And of course, we are delighted to launch these webinar series with Mr. Kelapure, who very graciously and generously gives us his time every month and comes and shares his expertise on financial education knowledge, so that we can empower you with any concerns or planning that you have as it relates to financial planning for your child who has a disability or your sibling who has a disability. As you know, we meet once a month. Last Sunday of every month is our time with Mr. Kelapure. And I'm excited that we are back here talking about creating a will and legal guardianship today, which is, I think, a very, very important topic. So to all the parents, thank you for taking the time on this Sunday morning. I know it's not easy to prioritize life, work, balance, children, and still be dedicated and committed to your learning so that your children's outcomes can be better. So thank you from me. And I'd like Harshali to share a little bit about SNCC Rehab and then hand it over to Rahul. Thank you so much.
Very good morning, all of you. Nice to see you on this Sunday morning after a break for the sessions. But I'm Harshali Kharche, and SNCC is doing work on various things like parent empowerment, financial series, children's activities. I mean, many things are going on. I will not take much of a time because we will start soon. I would like to say that collaboration with Samarthya is like my favorite now, because we are doing many things together and providing many important and very excited sessions together. And it's going so well that you do join others programs also. So I would request Rahul sir to begin with the presentation. Welcome, Rahul sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Harshali, and thank you, Shivani, for those kind words. And yes, last month we couldn't come up with a program because I was actually recovering from some flu and stuff like that. But now I'm fine and back. So it's great to be here on this Sunday morning and be with all of you, parents and adult siblings of persons with disability here. And I really love the commitment that Samarthya and SNCC has, and the kind of commitment you as participants have for your siblings and your children. So, so I'm actually, that commitment really makes me come month on month here and try and deliver whatever I can to the best of my abilities. So, having said that, about today's session, we are going to be talking about will and the legal guardians. Now, this is an extremely important topic that we have today to discuss. See, many of us as the parents or as the siblings of persons with disability, now we normally are worried about what will happen after me, or you know they should be really taken care of even after uh, we leave this world. uh, so the importance in that context, the importance of this making of the will cannot be understated. It is so important. um, I mean, it may sound a little uh, uh, different, but we don't know uh, how much is our life. Uh, it happens. It has actually happened many times. I mean, in the recent past, my neighbor, um, the woman was absolutely fine. She slept at night, and in the morning, the lady didn't get her. So the point that I'm trying to make is that life is extremely unpredictable, and it is important to ensure that we, till the time we are alive, we are here, we are taking care of our people, but even after we are not in this world, they should be taken care of. So I think, therefore, it is our responsibility here to really take that step and make those wills, and if required, make a trust, or maybe make a uh, arrangement for guardianship for people. Now, this guardianship angle is either it should be it is useful for the persons with disability, of course, and especially persons with cognitive disabilities, intellectual disabilities, because it is important that they. I mean, it may happen that they may not be able to take the decisions of their own finances or their well-being on their own at times, and therefore they would require somebody who would really take care of their interests in the in the long run, right? um, the other reason why we should uh, consider this is also for other kinds of people, is also for the persons who are elderly, or persons who have maybe things like dementia or some other things. So it's possible that your child may be able to take decisions on their own, but it's possible that you may have an elderly parent uh, uh, who may require care. So considering all those circumstances and all those situations, it is important that we have this. We actually look at this session as to what exactly you, as a you can do. This is an actionable. What actions you are required to take. So today's session is not about the knowledge. Today's session is about taking those actions that are extremely important, right? So then let's now begin. So um, just give me a second. Okay. So since we've actually understood, okay, the will is extremely important. So let's now start with wills. What is will? Will is see, actually, let me give you a perspective here. We can transfer the properties, right? Whether it is a land or a house or a flat, or even money, things like money or gold jewelry and stuff like that. All of that is a property, right? This is a property, and that property can be transferred through two ways. One is voluntary transfer. While we are parties are alive, and we are there, we are transferring it. And the other one is a transmission. So let's understand what is the voluntary transfers generally. So in the voluntary transfers, you can actually talk about things like if you sell something, the sale is one thing, or there could be an exchange of a value. Maybe you could give up gold jewelry for maybe some other things. Of course, that exchange part is very not very oftenly used nowadays. Or either you can have a lease or mortgage and stuff like that. So those are the kinds of transfers that we do in our lifetime while we are alive. So this is called a voluntary transfer. But today we will be talking about something called transmission. Now, transmission happens through wills. Now, one of the way of effecting transmission is will. The transmission can also happen without will. We'll come to that. Right? If somebody doesn't make a will, what happens after that? So that's a transmission by operation of law. By law, there'll be certain actions taken as per the law provisions of different laws. Now, having understood this and having understood the importance of making a will and having a will, let's now understand what is the will. Okay, so the will is a document where the information of the property, the description of the property is given, and then that property, as per your wishes, you are saying, okay, this property should go to this person after me. So it's just a piece of paper wherein you are mentioning whatever is the basically you'll be giving the description of the property that you have and how it will be devolved, how it will go to the persons that you want them to go. So now, for example, here, if I have a property, maybe I have a piece of land, and I want that piece of land to go to my 2 children. I would just write it in the will that, okay, I wish that this property would go after my death to so and so person, and then the property can later on devolve to that person. So this is just a document, right? Okay. Now, after we've actually now looked at the what is the will, okay? let's actually understand what are the components of will. What should be there in the will? See, it is important that in your will, you should describe the property in as much detail as you can, so that there's no confusion. I mean, you don't have to really go, do a complete, describe it. So, you don't have to do that. But it should be clear. Now, if you have two flats, say for example, and if you want to give one flat to one child and another to another one, in that case, instead of writing my one flat will go to X and the other one go to Y, you could actually say my flat situated at so and so location at Nagpur, say for example, would go to my elder son, whoever it is, so that there is no confusion later on. Because see, the idea of actually having making a will is to create, is to actually avoid the confusion and the complications after you go from this world. Now, it is possible that you can say in the will that you are giving this property to so and so person, but you want that person to just enjoy the property, use the property, but not have the right to sell. You can even do that. You can have those conditions in the will, depending on how you want to describe the property. Okay, so that's one thing. You got to be clear, right? So now it's important to understand that there's no proper format. There's no format prescribed by the government or anybody like that, right? There's no format, but what you should do is that, the description has to be clear, right? Of course, on the top, you should have your name, your description, and then you should start generally from, see, because this will is a voluntary, again, document, but which will take effect after you pass away, after you go from this world. So now what happens then is that, then in order to avoid any confusions later, you can actually write that I am making this will voluntarily in my full senses and stuff like that, so that it is clearly understood later on that the property is really can take effect. The ownership of the property can take effect to the person that for whom you have actually written in your will, right? So now let's understand. If it's a movable property, then of course you can give a description of that. If it's an immovable property, that is land and flats and those kind of things, then you should give description, as I said. But if it is a movable property, like for example, cash in the bank account, you can then say the cash in my bank account in this branch, account number so and so, and then you can say to whom it should go. Now, why do I say so? Because if you write 1 lakh rupees kept in my bank account, but by the time you pass away, maybe you will get some interest on that, and there will be a confusion. So even if you want to divide that, you can actually do it in a percentage terms. Like for example, you can say 50% will go to this, another 50% will go to another one. So things like that. Of course, on the program, on the will, you should have I mean, this may sound very general, but you should have a date and signature. That is extremely important. Now, in order to validate and authenticate your will, you got to, have this, have the, you got to have the will in the, dated properly, right? Okay. The date and signature should be there. Your signature, now, once it is dated and signed, it is important that you have some witnesses. Now, what would the witnesses do here? Witnesses would authenticate that, okay, you have signed it. Now, witnesses won't tell to the court or whoever that this is whatever you have written is correct or not. They would only authenticate that you have signed this document in your lifetime, right? So the role of the witnesses here is to authenticate that you have signed the document, not what you have written in the document. So the witnesses need not really know what is written in the will, right? You also should appoint somebody as an executor for the will. Now, what is executor? Executor is somebody who would execute your wishes. Now, this person should be somebody whom you really trust, somebody close to you, who would ensure that whatever you have written in your will is, affected the way you have said it. Now, the role of the executor is to ensure the wishes that you have written in your will, to implement those things, implement the provisions of your will, right? So that is important for the will. Other thing I would want you to remember is, while you are actually appointing somebody as executor, ensure that the executor is not the beneficiary of the will. Now, who is a beneficiary? Beneficiary is somebody in favor of whom you have written, given some property, you've done something. Now, why I say so? Because then there could be a conflict of interest, and the other parties to the will, or whoever it is, or even to execute the will, there could be questions asked by the court or by the authorities as to the impartiality of the person who's a executor here. So remember these things that you got to make this. Now, wills can be of two kinds. Before we come to that, actually, a couple of more things. You can actually register your will, but you don't have to. You don't have to, but you can register your will. How is that? Nowadays, of course, you can go to a registrar's office in your city or in your area there, and you can submit this will, and it will be registered, so that the execution of the will would be easy, right? It will be easy, but you don't have to register. If you register, the authentication, you don't have to prove the authentication of the will. That is but you don't have to register your will. There's, as I said, there's no fixed, there's no a proper formula, but of course one can actually think of making a will through a lawyer, take a help of a lawyer if you have complicated finances, or if you have a complicated property, or number of different properties and stuff like that, then it is better to take help from the from a professional in this regard, so that it'll be easy for you to then not to you, but later on it'll be easy for the beneficiaries to take to execute the will. Right. So that was about registering your will. You may hear a term called will and sometimes codicil. Now, will is a document normally in which you have mentioned everything about your property. But what may happen is that, sometimes you may acquire a property, or if you may actually sell a property or do something. In that case, it's like a supplementary will you're making. You don't want to make the full will, but just make that little change, or maybe add something, or remove something out of that. In that case, give a reference to that main will, and then say that, okay, this is the addition or a deletion that I want to make in my will. And this is called a codicil. Right? So this is called a codicil. You can actually totally make a will, make a fresh will. What will that do? It will automatically cancel or supersede your earlier will. In order to avoid any confusion, you can actually make a reference also. You don't have to, but it is automatically presumed that your earlier will is superseded by the new will. Right? So that's another point that I wanted to bring to your notice. Of course, nowadays the government of India actually says that you got to have your will. If you are above a certain age, you should be mentally and physically fit to take a decision. So nowadays I have seen that while registering a will, lot of registrars actually insist on getting a fitness certificate from a doctor. So that's just an additional thing that you could keep in mind. So we've understood so we've actually understood what is the what are the important components of will. Right? Now, what are the benefits of having a will? I think we've already spoken a few things about benefits of having a will, but I would emphasize once again, especially in the context of if you have somebody in your family who may be a person with disability, I think it is important to protect their interests, right? To protect their interests. So therefore it is important that we have a will. Now there are actually two types of, one is privileged will and the other one is unprivileged will. Now, what is, I mean, this may or may not be really extremely, may or may not be important for you, but just for your information, that this privileged will is a will which is made by the armed forces, persons serving in the armed forces, or persons in the Navy or in Air Force and stuff like that. Now, generally, it is said that, wills need to be written. But these privileged wills need not be written. It could be either written or in the oral form also. This may be difficult at times to execute later, but then this is there. I mean, this provision is there. All the other people that you and I make those wills are all unprivileged. So we are all making unprivileged wills. So it's just an information that way. Now, actually, let's understand that actually, what happens if you don't have a will? So you got to understand what happens if you don't have a will. Now, what will happen there is that the property would be devolved as per the personal law of whichever is applicable to you. Now, for example, Hindu Succession Act, the provisions of Hindu Succession Act would be applicable for persons who are Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs. Similarly, Indian Succession Act will be applicable for Christians. Similarly, provisions of Sharia Act 1937 would be applicable for the properties of Muslims. So, so there'll be a different kinds of. Now there is a in the presentation. Actually, I've mentioned how generally it is. Then if somebody dies without making a will, how the property would be devolved, how would it will devolve to the successors. That you can take a look at it. Of course, that a small write-up would be shared with you at the end of the session later, so that you can have a look at that. See, the problem here is that it would actually create a confusion at times. It may actually, there may be an issue there where there could be a dispute there, right? You don't have to make a will, but if you make it, it will definitely help you sort out your finances. Not only finances, but sort out the lives of people in your family. So I would highly recommend that you make a will. Now let's actually come to an important factor. How to execute a will. How a will would be executed. Whatever you have written in the will, how will that be implemented? See, actually, there are two ways of doing this. One is that, as I said, you'll appoint an executor who will have a responsibility to execute the wishes, your wishes, right? Or the wishes of a person who has made a will here. So there are two ways. One is that one will have to make a probate of the will, and the other one is to make a succession certificate. Now, these documents are important because this will help those people to then transfer, get the transfer documents on their names. Make those, complete the documentation, especially in cases of land or basically immovable property, land or a flat or a house or something like that. So in these cases, it is important to make something called a probate. Now, what is probate? Probate is a compulsory thing, compulsory document. It's a document by the court which will say, which will have a seal of the court, and it will say that this is what the person says. It's a seal by the court. It's a authority, authorized by the court that the will was valid, and as per the whatever is written in the will, this should be done in this way, so that there are no further questions asked, and it is easy for you to execute. Of course, probate can be revoked also if you can actually show to the court that the probate was taken by the fraud, or there was a some information was concealed from the court, and those kind of circumstances. Of course, you can keep the have a probate set aside. But in the normal circumstances, it's a final it's a final thing there, right? So so therefore, having a probate is mandatory if you have a property situated in Mumbai, Pune, not Pune, Mumbai, or Delhi, or Kolkata, or Chennai. In those areas, in those provinces, if you have your property, then you have to go for a probate, which will be done by the High Court of that area. And it takes generally it takes 6 months practically, minimum 6 months it would take, considering the pressure on the legal system that we have. So it will take about 6 months. You should be prepared for that. In some cases, of course, it can take a year also if there's somebody who is challenging the provisions of the will, and then of course it may take a time. But otherwise, it would be generally it would take about 6 months. And of course, for the other areas, we have a system called a succession certificate. That again is done by the court, wherein it's more or less the same purpose that is achieved of executing a will. Right? Now here I want to bring something to your notice.
12:60 p.m. Screen off.
And that is about nomination. Now, a lot of people think that if you have appointed somebody a nominee, that is a legal, that he'll be considered as a legal heir, or it'll be the ownership of that person. No, it's not like that. Nominee is just a person who is a kind of a trustee, who's not the owner of the property, but who can keep the property or that money or whatever it is with him, in order to and then the person has to give it to the author, the real owner of that. Now, of course, one way to deal with this situation is, of course, you make a nominee, somebody nominee, and then have that person as a beneficiary also in your will, so that there's no further confusion. But by appointing a nominee alone does not mean the property would go to that person. He's just a trustee there, right? He's just a trustee. However, this is actually done for the banks and other financial institutions, especially to release them, like, or even for the insurance companies, to release them from whatever legal battle that you may do, somebody may have, or other issues that may be there. So instead of protecting them, for protecting them, those institutions, this provision of nominee, so that the liability of that institution ends by transferring the assets to the nominee. That's how generally it is done. Having said that, it is extremely important to have somebody nominee, especially for your immovable property. Have somebody as a nominee. This is important because it is possible that money may be required urgently or something, so then there may be an issue at that time. So always have a nominee in all your financial assets, investments. Always appoint a nominee. Don't keep any asset without a nominee. Otherwise, this will actually save on a lot of hassle later. So, okay, so we've talked about that. Of course, making a now we've talked about execution of will. Now we are talking about making a will. Making a will in India. So now we've actually already covered that. You got to write it, and you can of course supersede it. You can register or not register. It's your up to you. Just a little small thing. Actually, can somebody challenge the will? Of course, one can challenge the will. Provided you can actually show it to the court that, okay, this will was not last will, one. Or again, the things like, the will was obtained from a fraud or concealment of material fact, or the person was not of in his senses when he made the will, or under any coercion or any misrepresentation also, or somebody who was maybe under some kind of emotion wherein he was not able to take a proper decision. So in those kind of situations, you can of course challenge a will, provision of will, and ask the will to be set aside. Whether, while we are wrapping up on the topic of will, and we'll be going to the guardianship part, before we end, I want to tell you something. It is extremely important to make a will, of course, but even if you don't make a will, have a nominee in your investment. But besides that, you should make a list of all your assets and liabilities. Keep it somewhere safe. Keep it with somebody who's really trustworthy for you. Keep it there, and ensure that documents are, all your passwords of your, if you're invested online, and all of that are available in case it is required. Now, it can happen in case of course, the death, that they may be required that information, but it would also be useful in case of any incapacitation where you cannot take a decision on your own, but the money is required. Now, this has recently happened with a friend of mine whose father-in-law had a brain stroke, and he had investments in some mutual funds. The problem was, while he was hospitalized, nobody knew his passwords. So everything had to be again reworked, run around to the mutual fund companies and stuff like this. It was all very, very complicated and difficult. So it is important to have that information at one place. It is our responsibility to do that, right? So with that, we wrap. It's a wrap on the part of will for today. And now we go to the next section of our session today. This is a guardianship. Now, this is important especially for
12:24 p.m.
for persons with disability, wherein a help of a guardian or services of a guardian may be required from time to time. Now, generally for minors, person who are under the age of 18, there normally it is required that a guardian be appointed to administer the properties of the minor. So, what is guardianship? So, guardianship is like somebody taking decisions for the ward. A guardian can take decisions for a ward, or for a child, or for a person who's not able to take decisions for himself or herself. So this is called a guardianship. Now, this is like a power of attorney. You have heard about power of attorney, wherein you ask somebody to take actions on your behalf. Similar, but there's an important distinction between that. That is, in case of power of attorney, of course, it's by will, and you can remove it, revoke it any time. You still have a lot of control. It is generally for the short time. But in case of guardianship, it is for a long term, and it is normally appointed by the court. Now, it is generally appointed by the court for those persons who are not able to take a decision on their own. And again, in the power of attorney, of course, the powers are limited to the power of attorney, to the person to whom you've given a power of attorney. The powers of that person are limited, but here generally the powers are more expansive. There are more powers of a guardian. Now, in case a person is disabled, has a cognitive disability, when the person cannot take decisions, or in fact decisions even on his treatment. Now, if you go to a doctor and if the person is requiring a treatment, the person may not be able to take a decision for himself whether he would want that treatment or not. And it is possible that the person may refuse the treatment, and it will be hazardous for that person. So in that case, guardianship is important. Of course, who can be a guardian is that the guardian could be a person with who's more than 18 years of age, who of course is of a sound mind, or has not been convicted, or is not is of a proper character, like he's not a cheater, or somebody who's who has been guilty of some moral crimes. So those kind of, I mean, just to ensure, because see here, there are a lot of powers being given to this person, to this guardian. Therefore, it is important that the person is somebody who's really responsible. Okay. So generally, the guardian is appointed for a long duration. Normally, it is of till 18 years of age. But in case of, as I said, for the persons with disability, it could be a lifelong or a substantial time of period of time. Can a guardian be removed? Yes. If, as I said, he's not of unsound mind, or he's bankrupt, or he has cheated, or he's not been taking care of a person in his custody. In those cases, of course, a guardian can be removed and a new guardian can be appointed at his place. Those are the points that there can be there's definitely these advantages, some advantages of having a guardian, of course, that, if you have a guardian, of course, the person for whom the guardian is appointed is taken care of. And in case of his food, sheltering, and all of that is also taken care of. And if there's any property on the made for the benefit of the disabled person here, could be utilized for the benefit of the person with disability. Of course, there are some disadvantages if the person doesn't take care of the person, if the guardian doesn't take care of the person with disability, or I mean, it is possible that always those decisions may not be in the best interests of the person with disability. So those are some disadvantages, of course, there. So that's generally about the will and
12:31 p.m.
The guardianship for today. I would, at the end, suggest you to make your will, if you have not made already, as soon as possible. That now you may think, oh no, right now why should I require it? No, you may require it at any time. Life is unpredictable. Somebody told me, no, we should not make a will because it creates a negativity. No, nothing like that. It is important to understand the negative effects that it may have if there's no will. And of course, start from making a list of assets and liabilities that you have. Make a list, keep it somewhere, maybe keep it in a hard copy somewhere. I don't know. Don't keep it on the internet or something like that, because nowadays there are a lot of those internet issues. If all the passwords and everything is at one place, there could be an issue. So make that, keep all your passwords and stuff, and keep your finances simple. Don't have too many investments, small investment in too many other things, because it will be then difficult to even manage for yourself also. Manage your finances. It will be difficult. So consolidate your finances, keep it easy, make it simple. That's it from my side today. Of course, if you have any questions, you can connect with me later also, and right now also. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul ji. And we will go for some questions now.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. I can see some questions in chat box, but Dr. Ashok Shah, if you want to unmute and ask, you please go ahead, because I think some of your questions are answered here and you may have to ask some part of question. Okay, I can see the raise hand. Please go ahead. I cannot see your name. 1 plus no. Please go ahead. Ashok Shah sir, you there?
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I have more than one person appointed as guardian?
Normally, no. See, you can actually do that, but as a succession. Like, for example, you may say, okay, X is appointed as guardian, but in case X is not available or doesn't want to take the responsibility, then Y would be the guardian. But at once, you cannot have two guardians.
Okay. Because why I say so?
Because for the same property. Yeah, sorry.
Because sorry, sir. We are a parent of intellectually disabled daughter,
Yes.
and when I go to the bank, I just want to operate account on behalf of my daughter. So simultaneously, yes, my wife should also be able to operate account of hers. But that is not allowable, because
no,
in guardianship certificate only my name is there.
Correct.
Not my wife's name is there.
Correct.
So I just want to know whether I can include my wife's name or
no,
not.
No, sir. Actually, see, being parents of the child, of course, she will have a right to do certain things. But since the name on the guardianship certificate is your, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, basically the idea about giving a guardianship is that that there are not too many people taking decisions, because see, understand the practical aspect also. Now, for example, if there are more than one guardian, right, and if one guardian says, now of course you're parents, so that's a different thing, but if in other cases, if one guardian says that this child should receive whatever XYZ treatment, and the other guardian says, no, this is not a good treatment, she should take another treatment. So there'll be a conflict between two guardians, right?
Yeah, I got the point.
Yeah, so that is the reason why they have not allowed more than one guardian.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions from parents? Yes.
Question answer session.
Who can remove guardian after demise of parents?
Who can remove guardian?
Yes, Ashok Shah sir asked. Yeah.
If I understood this correctly, what you want to ask is if the person is okay. So if the parents are not alive, and some third person is appointed as a guardian, and if somebody wants to, if the guardian has to be removed, then who would do that? So normally, the guardians, third party guardians, are removed by the court. So somebody has to apply for that. Now, for that, what I've seen is there are a lot of these organizations, I think trusts, who normally take care of the interests of a person with intellectual disabilities generally. So either they can apply, anybody can actually that way apply, or somebody who's known or who's a relative or a friend, even a friend or a relative, can apply for removal of the guardian.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And I'm just going through other chat box. Any other questions, anyone?
I think somebody had raised hand.
Yeah, he asked his question.
Okay.
Will the probate need a lawyer's help too? It is a next question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so I say generally, practically speaking, yes. Technically speaking, not really necessary, but practically, yes, it is required. Lawyers, it's just a documentation only. But yeah, if a lawyer is there, then the work is done faster. So probate would require a lawyer.
Okay.
Because the procedure is fast.
Okay. Yes. I guess that answers your question, Anu. Next question, she's asking: will the will need to be attached to probate process?
See, essentially, once you get the probate, you don't, the importance of will is superseded. I mean, basically, the provisions of the will are given in the probate document. Now, what happens? And if your question is whether the will needs to be submitted while you are making a probate, yes. You have to submit the will, copy of the will to the court and say, look, this is the will, and I want to probate on this will, provisions of this will. So you would require to submit the copy of the will to the court.
Okay. We have Ashok Shah, sir. You have some question, please. You can unmute. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
See, you said the probate takes at least 6 months for execution.
Yes.
There are two questions.
Yes.
If there is no what I call the challenge to the will, and your will is in Mumbai or Calcutta, Delhi, you still need to go for the probate. And second question is, it takes 6 months or more also. So till what time, who takes care, or what fund will take care of the child, or this thing, specially able child?
Okay, I got it. So now let me answer your first question first. Your question was if there is no challenge to the will.
Yeah.
Now, even if there is no challenge, the procedure would take some time actually, maybe at least 3 months or 4 months. Practical experience is that it would take about 6 months. That is a practical experience. It will still take generally about 6 months. The other thing is that who takes care of the child during that time. So provisionally, of course, there could be a guardian appointed, or if there is a nominee, that nominee can actually withdraw some funds and take care of the child who's a special child, basically. So you can, of course, that person can take care of the child in the meanwhile. So to take care of the child here in this case, would be to provide for his shelter and for his food and medical, all of that. So that can anyway be taken out of the property of the person who has made the will. Of course, the paperwork can happen after 6 months, but in the meanwhile, the person can continue to stay there, continue to take the benefits of, continue to have the benefits of food and shelter and all of those in the meanwhile. It's not that, till the time his probate is not there, you can't do anything. It's not. And in that case only, I was saying the importance of nomination is there. If somebody is a nominee there, somebody can actually take charge of that money and ensure that the person is taken care of, the child is taken care of.
Okay, that answers your question, sir. I hope. Okay. Next, there is one question in chat box that how to get guardianship certificate once my kid turns 18.
So see, the procedure is that you got to apply in the court for that. This is under a relevant act which is there. There is a format available there. So if you require, you can get in touch with me separately. I could probably help you in that. So there is a procedure prescribed. You could do that.
Yes. Kelapure sir's number and Gmail is displayed on the screen. You can directly contact him. And any other question? Okay, right. Just now got. Is it preferred to have a trust created by special needs child and a name that as a beneficiary for the child in the will?
Okay, so it is actually up to you, but yeah, I think making a trust has its own advantages. If there is a trust created, of course, then the whole thing of actually executing a will and all of that stuff is not required. But at the same time, having that trust and creating those trustees and all of that you need to be, if you're clear on that. Of course, making a trust is also a very good option, of course, especially in case of a special child. You can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she says thank you. Any other question? Yes.
May I?
Yes, Aditya.
Acha, in nominee, can I do the father's account?
No, ask that question again.
In the nominee, can I do the father's account?
Okay, if you have an account and you want to have somebody as a nominee, so can you appoint your father as a nominee? That is what you are asking?
Yes.
Yes, you can do. You can have anybody as a nominee. So you don't have to have somebody younger to you or a next generation or anything. You can have anybody. Even your father can be nominee in your bank account.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
What's the name? Rahul Kelapure.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Aditya Shah. Dr. Shah son.
Hi, Aditya. Hi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aditya. And I guess we have taken all the questions. Okay, there is one more. Can a kid get government schemes benefits?
This question, I actually didn't understand what exactly you mean by that.
Yeah, Varsha Mani, if you are there, you can unmute and ask your question. Please. Varsha Mani, ma'am. I think she is not able to hear. Okay. So
Or she can get in touch with me separately if she has.
Yes. Yeah, you can email or message him directly with this question. Yeah. So, okay, she's asking monetary benefits. Can I get, you can unmute, ma'am, if you want to ask specific question. Okay, I think with this, we can wrap up the session today. And thank you so much, Rahul ji, and all the parents, wonderful parents who are came here on the Sunday morning. And we are doing, Samarthya and SNCC is doing this financial series every last Saturday of the Sunday, 11:30. So do join us for these upcoming topics. Yeah. Okay. Then we will wrap up, Rahul ji.
Sure. Thank you so much, Harshali, and thank you so much, SNCC and Samarthya. I really enjoy these sessions every month.
Yeah, we too, sir. Thank you so much. And have a good day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.